Okay, welcome to Block Play, Building a Foundation of Early Learning in the Library with Marra Honeywell and Pamela Martin-Díaz of the Allen County Public Library. Ladies, I'll let you take it from here. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning. This is Pamela. I'm going to start us off this morning. Thank you all for joining us today. We are excited to share with you our experiences with blocks and block play in and out of the library. Here is what we are hoping you will take away with you today. We hope that you'll gain an understanding of how block play contributes to early childhood development. We're also hoping you'll gain an understanding of what the key elements to develop block play in the library are, and finally, take away some ideas to support and sustain block play throughout your community. First, a little background. Block play is a perfect fit for the library as we embrace the research and philosophy behind the Public Library Associations and the Association for Library Service to Children's Every Child Ready to Read program. We believe, thanks to research and practices developed around it, that when we are intentional in the way in which we talk, read, write, sing, and play with children, that we are helping to lay the foundation upon which a child who reads with understanding is built. Intentionality is key as we model how to interact with children in the hope that the adults in their lives will learn some strategies to do the same. And of course, we want to have some fun doing it too. I first learned about the power of block play when I attended an American Library Association conference some years ago. Judy Nelson from Pierce County Library in Washington State led a session on blocks in a program they developed around them. Since then, I've had the idea in the back of my mind to take their idea and run with it. They have lots of good information like these brochures on their website, which is noted in the back of the resource page at the end of the webinar. You know, great ideas are worth stealing, always giving credit where credit is due. Our motivation for doing what we do is simple. We want to improve outcomes for children in Allen County. These facts help paint a picture for why this is so compelling. Again, research informs that children who live in poverty do less well in school and are not as healthy as their more affluent peers. These factors, among others, bode for a less than bright future for our children. Because we are not their care providers or their parents, we have limited time to influence their lives. This is why many of our programs focus on reaching the adults and children's lives, because they have the frequency and duration of contact with them to make an impact. These are our hoped-for incomes in the grant that we were attempting to get, to provide low-income children, especially those attending lower quality child care programs, with the opportunity to learn from and play with interesting, high-quality blocks. We also hoped to increase library staff's and care providers' ability to facilitate block play. This same focus on poor children meant that we could qualify for a grant from PNC's Grow Up Great initiative. They are willing to fund programs serving communities with over 51% of the children living in poverty. After looking at the populations of young children through the Indiana Department of Education's website and looking at Fort Wayne Community Schools data, it became clear that we would be able to do this project in 4 agencies serving largely poor children. We wrote the grant and it was funded for a total of $30,000 to be spent in 1 year. Oh, and I should mention this. This was not our first attempt at getting funding. I had applied to another funder who soundly rejected this program. Our desire to work with lower income children led us to strengthen our relationship with staff at the Early Childhood Alliance, our local reference and referral agency who provides childcare staff with support, training, and mentoring to improve the quality of care. They agreed to help us identify childcare homes and centers that were on level 1 or 2. If you take a look at this chart, you'll see that level 1 indicates that a licensed child care home or center only needs to attend to the children's health and safety. Level 2 includes health and safety as well as learning environments. It's not until you get to level 3 that there actually is some hoped for educational outcomes with a planned curriculum. The Early Childhood Alliance agreed to help. They would make the initial contact, tell the providers how to get in touch with us, and provide training on block play for librarians and care providers. An added initiative was that the care providers who attended training and 4 sessions of block play would receive a starter set of blocks for their facility. Also, because we believed that the main reason child care providers did not use our facilities as much as we would like was due to the fact that they did not have safe transportation. To avoid that situation, we allocated money to transport 20 child care children and staff 4 times to and from the library closest to them. Everything was in place. We were ready to roll. Our partnership with the library, the Early Childhood Alliance, funded by PNC, was completed. We were ready to play. The training provided us by Alice Thompson, Early Childhood Alliance's professional development trainer, was just what we needed. Much of the information about blocks comes from her sessions with us. Because of her job, she was able to include information about the Indiana standards for young children called the Indiana Early Learning Foundations, which is available online. Many of these standards are met by block play. I'm going to share with you some of the highlights of what we learned from her. As I go through this with you, I will be including some of the tidbits of information that we share with adults during block play, as well as some of the language used while we model intentional play. Block play touches on all of the different areas or domains of early childhood, and here they are listed. We're going to go into each one in a little bit of detail. Starting with math. Counting, we might say, how many do we have here? 1-to-1 correspondence. Cool, each one of us has 1 blue block. Look, it's 1 block, 1 person. Shapes. This must be a triangle because they always have 3 sides. And then to the adult, we might add something about knowing shapes, how they are different from one another, is the beginning of children learning how to differentiate among letters, which is letter knowledge, a key part of early literacy and learning how to read. Colors, which is your favorite? Why? Sorting and matching. Let's put all of the squares that are the same size together. Measurement. Let's see which one is tallest. I wonder if they have the same number of blocks. Estimation. I am guessing or estimating that there are 8 blocks here. We're using words like estimation, measurement. We are not talking down or watering down any of the language for the children. Research tells us it's not just the quantity of language that counts, it's also the quality. Addition and subtraction. How many will there be if we add 1 more? Equality. Let's see if we have the same number of blocks. Are the piles equal? Please notice that we're only using questions that cannot be answered by yes or no. These open-ended questions are the key to using rich language with young children. Next we have science. There's so much science in block play, and it's so much fun. Gravity. Which one do you think will roll the farthest? Science is part of background knowledge, which helps children understand what they are reading once they are readers. Weight. I wonder if the heavier one will go farther than the lighter one as we roll them down this ramp. Force. What do you think about the idea of using this block to move this other one? Patterns. Wow, I love how the colors you used repeat. Red, blue, red. It's a pattern. Solving problems. What do you think we can do so this doesn't happen again? Cause and effect. What did you do to make it fall down? Parts to whole. How many more pieces do we need to complete this? Prediction and observation. What do you think will happen? Have you observed or seen this happen before? Prediction and observation are at the heart of science and part of forming a hypotheses. If this happens, then that will happen, which is something that children will see as they enter the world of science experiments when they're older. Of course, literacy and language blossom with block play. We need to speak with them and listen to them. Now that's an interesting idea. Vocabulary develops rapidly. We can use all kinds of fanciful and interesting language when we play with blocks. Wow, the turret on this castle looks as though it might topple, not to mention some alliteration just for fun. With themes and stories, let's play The Three Billy Goats Gruff, one of my favorite stories of all. Social emotional development is key for children's development. Cooperation is something that they learn because they also have a better experience when they cooperate. We can say things like, I like how you are sharing the blocks you don't need. This is a wonderful comment as you see a potential hoarder keeping all the blocks near his or herself because you never know when you might need another one. Exploration. What could we do differently? Decision making. Which way do you want this to go? Respect for each other's work. How do you feel when someone knocks down your creation? Making choices. Which ones should we play with today? Taking turns. Who picks next? And of course, sharing. Maybe it would be more fun to work on this together. Not always the suggestion that's taken with the best result, but it's always worth asking the question. And then finally, motor development. Eye-hand coordination. It looks like it might be difficult to place this one. Strength. Let's see how many we can carry at a time. Fine motor skills. Let's put all of the little ones over here. It can be really difficult to place that final block on top of a tower. It requires a lot of patience. It requires perseverance and all kinds of positive attributes that we want our children to acquire as they grow and learn with us. One of the most interesting things that Alice shared with us was the stages of block play that all children go through. The first one is discovering blocks. This is when you might see that toddler with blocks in his or her hands kind of walking around, apparently doing nothing at all with them. They carry them, but they don't use them for construction. Next, stacking blocks. You can see the child on the left is thinking vertically and the kids on the right are all about horizontal. There is some repetition and early patterning going on here as well. Then we have some complex stacking or bridging. They discover that they can use a bridge, make a bridge using 2 blocks to support a third. And this is the beginning of being able to build houses and roads and castles and all kinds of things. Then you learn to make an enclosure because you never know who might be trying to get in. Build with patterns and symmetry. I'm imagining that care provider standing there is saying something like, it seems to me we might need another pole, because look how many poles we have going up and down. What do you think? Should we use another pole or another brick? Early representational, you see this child has the idea of a road ending in some kind of maybe a garage with a triangular structure in the background. Perhaps it's where other things are stored. Later representational, this is a group of 5-year-olds who were able to construct some pretty astonishing structures. They used all kinds of objects and were making up stories, and they had a castle and a moat, and it was really, really interesting to watch what they could do. When we played with children, we were very clear about using words and language that would help them develop those skills that I mentioned earlier. We observed. Quote, when we see children do from the outside, help us to ask questions about what children are thinking, feeling, and experiencing on the inside. When we watch children, we're learning a lot about how they think. We used prompts and questions to help children think about what they were doing, and of course, help them learn some science and math vocabulary words along the way. This interplay or exchange between adults and children playing with blocks is what makes this play so powerful. It is what makes the kind of experience we offer special with this added value. We ask open-ended questions that cannot be answered yes or no, like what's going on here? We ask follow-up questions, repeating what the child said. You are building a tower. How high will it go? This would be after asking the child, what are you building? The child says, tower, and you would say, oh, you are building a tower. Wait for the child to respond 5 seconds. Count that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count it in your brain, not aloud. To give the child time to organize his or her brain to be able to answer your question. And show interest in each response. Wow, you've really planned this. You've worked hard. It's really interesting how you have figured out how to do this, are the kinds of things that we can say. So what we learned. Well, children, don't need adult mediation to learn from blocks. Regardless of what we do, they're learning as they go. What makes block play in the library so special? We provided a critical element, time to really play and develop an idea from beginning to end. Each block play session was 1 hour long, and we started each session with a book related to block play and also some friendly reminders about how we play together. One of the strengths of the program is that we had a large collection of blocks, including many kinds that are not readily available to the public. We were able to do this because we have something that many child care centers don't have, and that's space for storage and for play. A large number of blocks reduces conflict because sharing is part of cooperation in play, and it's easier because when there is no scarcity, which could be a source of conflict. A large quantity also means that the constructions are more interesting and can be more complex, reflecting the interest and intellectual development of the child. We always told the children when they had 10 more minutes until cleanup so they could figure out how to complete their creations. Everybody, and I mean everybody, helped clean up. It usually took about 10 minutes for us to get everything put away. So we learned that everybody, really everybody, loves blocks. Marra is going to speak to that more directly in a few minutes. And everybody learns while they are playing. You almost can't help but learn something new, because even without articulating what you are doing, you are weighing possibilities. Will it fall? How would it look if I added one more here? It is really the best kind of open, no-fail, non-competitive play I know of. One child in a group of preschoolers that came to my library kept saying, "Look, mine is bigger." And I kept saying, "Yours is a bit taller, but this isn't a contest." After a little while, when someone said to him, "Look, mine's taller," he calmly said, "Yes, but this isn't a contest." And the next thing we learned was a huge surprise. These are some images of the variety of blocks that we purchased. And Mara's going to share some more information about them and where you can buy them later. I do want to point out the one in the middle, the unit blocks, which is one of the things we had the most fun with. But what did we learn? Well, we had a huge surprise. Perhaps the biggest revelation to us was that of the 12 child care centers who came to a library, only 2 needed transportation. I repeat, 2 of 12. We were stunned. Apparently, lack of safe transportation was not the reason more child care personnel and kids don't use the library. The most common reason that coming to the library was at times impossible seemed to have been when the helper called in or didn't show up, leaving the child care center or home short-staffed. Because our program was specifically geared toward preschoolers, programs with multiple little kids or babies wanted to and needed to leave them behind. However, those who did come enjoyed themselves. Children shared experiences with their parents about block play. In fact, one parent used it as a threat. "If you don't behave, you won't be able to go to the library to play with blocks." The care providers expressed pleasure in the play and were for the most part quite engaged with the children, although some distracted behavior with cell phones was noted. So what now? Well, a reaffirmation that in order to have a positive impact, we need to go where they are. Bringing books, music, stories, and positive energy with us. And blocks. We hope to bring blocks. So I imagine some of you are thinking, well, this sounds like a lot of fun, but we don't have any money. I know what that feels like because we didn't always have money either. So what can we do? What can you do in the meantime? There are some block sets that are quite affordable, like the bricks, these cardboard bricks that are lightweight, durable. You can stand on them, throw them, although that's one of the things we ask children not to do. And you can also make your own. On the right is a cardboard cereal box that's not decorated because I'm not clever in that way, but you could decorate it and wrap it in something that could be really cool. Empty containers and boxes of all kinds can be used. So you see the plastic containers there. I was thinking you could put different colored paper around them and make your own blocks. And these are proportional, so you could do the part to whole kinds of relationship in terms of block play. These would just be deli containers. And here's some other ideas that you could do. Organic lettuce container on the right with the green paper in it, and some other containers that are just empty. They're very lightweight. They would be safe to play with, although one could not stand on them. But then again, we don't, even the really big blocks we have, we don't really encourage children to stand on them very much because they get dirty, and some young children, well, germs and all that. And also, we are a library system, and now that we own the blocks and the block grant is done, we did our final report, we are able to share these blocks among our 13 buildings. So perhaps you could take a look at whatever kinds of cooperative agreements you have or might have and be able to share blocks among some library districts, if that's possible. I mean, who knows, maybe the state library would be interested.
This is Beth at the state library. Yeah, so we don't have the funds for that right now, but that is something to keep in mind. But we do have Duplos and Legos, and I know those are not quite exactly the same thing, but if you're talking about the youngest kids, we do have Duplos. So is that something that libraries could potentially use in a program like this, ladies?
Yes, definitely. We have some agencies that have combined they do just block play in general. Older kids do Legos, littler kids do the Duplos, and then other kids use the other size blocks. And it's just like a block play kind of like marathon of all different kinds of options and choices. So, and sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
You're totally fine. It was a great opportunity for me to plug our Duplo kits.
There you go. So I'm going to turn this over to Marra now, because she's going to talk about taking the blocks out into the community and things she learned doing outreach with these blocks.
We did have one earlier question. Someone asked about the block play flyer. Do you remember where you got that?
Yes, it's from Pierce County, and their link to their website and their block play is on the handout at the end of the webinar. They have all kinds of things. They have an evaluation form. They have take-home things to give parents after block play, and their material is available in English and Spanish. They did a beautiful job, and all kudos to Pierce County. Okay, so Marra, here you go.
Can we ask one more quick question? Are you guys going to talk about storage at all? Because we did have a question. Somebody would love to purchase bigger blocks, but they don't have storage for them at their library.
Yeah, storage has definitely been a challenge because they are you talking about I kind of saw it come across. Is it the Imagination Playground Big Blue blocks that you're looking at?
Beth Monk,
Well,
is that?
Storage is always an issue, and we were lucky to have some closet space that we were able to commandeer. We have lots of blocks that are just on the floor of our library departments. Well, I should say not on the floor, but in the department. And something like the extra large blue blocks are really easy to toss up in the top of a closet, or they're highly mobile. And I am going to talk about some of the changes that we've made to our library spaces to accommodate more block play. And I've got a couple of pictures, but I'd be glad to send more if that's something you guys are interested in.
And there are some, for the unit blocks, the smaller ones, the wooden ones, there are some storage units available that you could leave out in your library that close, and you could lock them if you don't have enough staff to be constantly picking up blocks. We have our blocks on a cart that I roll out when we do block play, and since it's just the size of like a book cart, it doesn't take up that much room, and it actually lives in my office, which mostly just has a desk and a bunch of stuff in it, including blocks.
Yeah, both Pamela and I have a lot of toys in our office.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. So I'm Marra Honeywell, and I kind of want to give you a little bit of background that Pamela didn't share with you. We are so lucky to have these phenomenal block play sets, but this was something that was a really long time in the making for us. Pamela and I attended the International Children's Museum Interactivity Conference about 4 years ago, and we saw block play being used. We saw a lot of this really big, super fancy block play, and it really got our imaginations churning about what it would take to bring that into Allen County. So we plotted and planned for 4 years before we were able to make it a reality. So you know, as you're thinking about where do we find funding, how do we make this work, I want you to know that it doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. and it's completely and absolutely worth it. Probably Pamela and I were like normal librarians before we went to this interactivity conference, and then we became block geek librarians. So you could probably tell that from her presentation. And after I'm done talking, my goal is to make sure that we have at least a few people that are listening in that turn into huge block geeks as well. So if there is nothing else that you remember from today, just remember this slide. Block play is amazing, and it will make your library even better. That's a fact. I'm just going to stand behind it. But really digging in and knowing more about the far-reaching benefits of block play has made me truly a better librarian and a better parent, because I am so excited about the results that we've seen from incorporating block play into our regular library business. One of the most powerful things about block play is that it just is a really effortless way to engage families. No matter what type of blocks you choose to add to your library space, I promise you that you will see little kids, but you'll also see teens, and you will see parents getting in on the play as well. You may even see teens and parents that are building while their little kids are doing other things. I have a host of favorite family engagement stories, but some of the ones that I'm most proud of were that after a Kiva Planks program, one parent decided to make a home investment in a set of blocks from that program. After playing with our big blue blocks for a long time, a local preschool is working to raise the funds to purchase their own set, and they're hoping to host family engagement programming around the big blue blocks as well. Here in Fort Wayne, we have a really large Burmese immigrant community, and one thing that we've noticed is that a lot of the toys that we have, our imaginative play spaces, are maybe something that they're not as accustomed to or familiar with, but that block play has proven to be completely universal for parents whose first language isn't English, who might not be used to a lot of what happens at the library in general, that block play is something that they can dig into and enjoy with their kids. My favorite story is that we have become very popular around our community because of these big blue blocks that we have. And we have started to get invited to a lot more outreach events, and here's how it goes. Hey, can you come and do library sign up at our outreach event and talk about the great things that the library does, and bring those blue blocks with you? So clearly they're opening a lot of doors and helping people to think about the libraries differently. We had the big blue blocks that we have from Imagination Playground. They're really easy to move and take to outreach visits, so it's no big deal. And they're also fine for outdoor play. So we've been bringing them to a lot of concerts around town. This is a concert that we actually had here at our plaza. And this is, 3,000 people are attending this conference. We threw some blue blocks out, and there was this guy that was building. And this guy was the most popular kid at the building ground. His own son was tired of playing, but this dad just kept building and made structures for all of the kids to play with, ramps, really complicated stuff, and he was engaged for the entire concert with block play.
That's awesome.
And it was so awesome. It's no secret that block play is especially enticing to many parents and caregivers. It's kind of, I think, a direct link to our own childhood experiences, just because whether you were stacking cans in the kitchen or playing with Legos, or you had those multicolored blocks in the 1980s that you would build with, it's something that everybody has done, and it's easy to start conversations around block play and planning how it's all going to work out. There's kind of a natural pattern that develops in conversation, and it increases and gets richer the more parents and their children engage in block play. We saw a lot of really great things happen with the caregivers and families who attended multiple sessions. What we saw was a lot of what Pamela talked about, which is that all-important serve and return pattern of conversation. where parents ask questions, their children answer, and then the parents ask more questions. Block play gives a solid baseline of things to talk about, to plan, and to question, and then to start over again. So as a part of our programming, we try to include many of the questions and concepts that Pamela shared earlier, things like using rich vocabulary and giving very specific compliments based on observation. We know that we're modeling this play for lots of parents and caregivers. And in fact, after listening to Pamela's presentation and her talking about the quality of language, I knew that I was going to go home that night and play blocks with my kid because that's what we do at my house. So I wrote down a whole bunch of words about castles. I used her turret, topple language. I also used words like drawbridge and fortifications, and I Googled all of those words. You bet I Googled them because I can't think of those off the top of my head. And so I was thinking, here's 5 minutes that I spent looking in the dictionary.com about different words to describe this. And isn't that something really simple that we can do for all of our block play programming? And I know that we already do a fair amount of that. So find those rich language words, write them on the board, put them on a poster, share them in your conversation, add that little bit of intentionality, and watch the learning outcomes and the quality of language grow in your programs. So here at the Allen County Public Library, we have been really busy creating more spaces for play in each of our branches. We've been responding to the community need for safe, clean, welcoming spaces for families to learn and play together. We want caregivers to know and experience every child ready to read those basics: read, write, talk, sing, and play, and find out how very easy it is to do all of those things as a part of your everyday experiences. We understand that many families in our community are choosing not to check out books from the library. So there are a variety of reasons for this, but one antidote that we're using is providing other ways for family to learn. So we've kind of increased our carrot. So we want to make sure that our community understands that the library is about lifelong learning, and that happens in all sorts of different ways. Through our programs, through coming in to play, through the conversations, and through books. So we want children to learn through play. We want children to come to the library and play, and then, as a natural part of that, we want them to find books that they're going to love. We've transitioned some of our spaces to make sure that we have open spots, as you saw on the slide before, for a variety of different kinds of imaginative play, and always block play. And then we've tried our best to put high interest, visible, bright materials as a part of our space planning facing those locations as well, so that you can't help but want to sit down and read a book. What we're hoping is that families visit more frequently. Lots of families visit every 3 weeks when their books are due. But what would it take to have them visit every 2 weeks? Maybe just a Saturday afternoon when it's cold and yucky outside, just to spend some quality time in the library. We're hoping that families visit more frequently, stay longer, and engage in more activities in that space, and then grab some excellent books to read together. So over the course of the past year, our librarians have been engaged in the difficult work of weeding our children's collections to remove shelves and free up floor space for all sorts of play equipment. I'll go back to that slide so you guys can kind of see. This is kind of new for us, is to have this quantity of play items regularly on the floor. So we've definitely spent some organizational budget for this transition, but I want you to know that at any price point, you can find high quality things to add to your play space. Pamela talked about some really exceptional, easy, free options for ways to incorporate block play. And I want to share with you a couple more ideas. because I know that you guys are now, after 45 minutes with us, completely committed to adding more blocks into your library. Yay! So I asked on the Programming Librarian Facebook group what sort of block items libraries across the country were putting into their spaces. And these were the most popular answers that I got to those questions. I will say that my personal preference for this is that we are just bananas for those cardboard blocks. And you can buy them nearly anywhere. Melissa and Doug has sets. Walmart has sets. They're really durable. They stand up to a lot of play. And there's a ton of different things that you can do with those. And since they're light, you can free up some shelf space and even have them in your children's area all the time. I'm also a huge fan of magnet tiles. They're a little bit more expensive, but they are definitely worth the investment. The one negative about them is that they do limit the building play because of where the magnets are located, but they're really low entry. They're bright. There's something satisfying about the click, and truly, parents love them and teens love them. So these are all some possible options for you when you're looking at a variety of blocks that are available. I had never used the tower blocks that are up in the corner, but I did end up buying a set because I'm really interested in feeling how they click together, because when you become a total block nerd, that stuff is really exciting to you. So I hope to encourage you to get some. If there's nothing else that you get out of this today, find $50 to get those cardboard blocks, put them on the floor, and in the morning watch the kids and their parents love to play with those, knock them over, laugh hysterically, and then wait to see in the afternoon what your teenage crowd does with them, because I bet you they'll be building too. My favorite block items are the natural play wood blocks. I think there's something that's very sensory appealing about a lot of these. They feel different, they sound different, there's a really satisfying weight, and there's a lot more creativity that just comes with making block play happen with simple things. So I would really encourage anybody to look into buying basic wood blocks. Unit blocks are exceptional because of the math that's involved and the complexity of things that can be built with those. Some other things that we've had that have been really popular here are Kiva planks. We use those regularly for programming for all ages because of the complexity of structures that you can build. I really love the sensory in the tree blocks. You can get them with or without bark. I prefer the without bark just because of the way it feels, and also because I worry about bark falling off into 2-year-olds' mouths. And the loose parts building materials are always really popular, and we know that because they walk out the door in little pockets like you wouldn't believe, including, frankly, my own kid's pocket. So loose parts, it's awesome. So if you get really lucky and maybe some of this conversation today has inspired you to dream big, then here are the items that we purchased with our funding from PNC Bank. And again, remember, 4 years of plotting and planning to make this happen. We purchased unit blocks from Community Playthings, and these are, without exception, the top of the line blocks. Like, if you can have a Cadillac of unit blocks, that is from Community Playthings. We've really enjoyed the ramp and building play from Kodo. That whole website is just like my fantasy world of amazing play. The big blue blocks and the medium blue blocks from Imagination Playground are exceptional. They're easy to use, super durable, high quality, lightweight, but far and away our favorite and most popular and most challenging to ship from location to location has been the Rigamajig. This is the really complicated, like, gears and wheels and creation. So it's not a standard block play like unit blocks, but it's really, really high level excitement. what I might recommend, if this looks like something that you have a crowd that would be into, is the Rigamajig Junior has a lower price point, and you can actually, it comes in like a duffel bag. You can toss it on your shoulder, and the adorable little girl down there with the brightly colored nuts and bolts, she's using the Rigamajig Junior set. So that one is for home use. You can't get huge group play out of it, but we've had some of our library branches that have just set those pieces on the floor and have been able to watch what kids have created. Whew, okay, so that is a lot of information about blocks, and I hope that you are all more energized and that you've come up with some really unique and personalized ways to incorporate block play into your library. But before we go, we want to make sure that we extend to you an invitation that if you are ever in Fort Wayne, we would love to have you come to our block play programs. 2,000 members of our community last year participated in block play at our library, and we're expecting about another 1,500 to be a part of our program this summer. So hopefully you could be one of those, either as a librarian or as someone that's just there to play. So come on over and see us, and we can geek about blocks with you.